I've been teaching credit since 2003, full time. I love it. It never gets old to me. My children have listened to this conversation and many more just like it since they've been old enough to walk. My adult son, off in college in Alabama, electrical engineering program at UAH, lived in he didn't know it at the time, but he would call me and say, Dad, I hear gunshots, but no sirens. So I'm like, we need to get you somewhere else. But anyway, he left his checkbook in his glove box. That's not Dad approved. His checkbook was stolen. They wrote check cashing checks on him. He was getting overdraft notices from his bank, First Tennessee at the time. There's no First Tennessees in Alabama. And I walked him through the process of how to get that all straightened out. So they wind up closing out all of his check numbers are now no good. And they've shut his account down, but he was coding and made good money coding for a large company, and his checks weren't small. So he needed his paycheck to pay his rent, but his account was shut down, but his check was deposited anyway. So I had him call the home office, and this is, they said, we need this information, birth certificate, driver's license, whatever, and go to a branch and present that. So he goes to the branch, drives 2 hours to a First Tennessee branch. He walks in, tells the teller why he's there, and she goes, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. They've probably closed your checking account down, and your check is floating around in cyberspace, and it'll get back to your employer in 2 or 3 weeks, and they'll just issue a paper check. He reiterated the direness of his situation. He didn't have enough money to drive 2 hours back home. He needed his check. He again stated how dire it was, and she goes, I'm so sorry. There's literally nothing we can do for you. He goes outside, thinks for a second. He's been on the radio with me since 2008. So he goes, wait a second. My dad wouldn't accept that for an answer. Goes back in, finds the branch manager. She actually pulls his account up. She goes, no, your check is in there. Money can come in, it can't go out. Well, he had the wherewithal to get the home office online with the branch. He left with his check. He calls me the next day and he goes, Dad, you're not going to believe this, but the lady that gave me the worst advice possible was visibly upset I went over her head to get my problem solved. And I said, Bubba, she wasn't mad at you. She was mad because nobody believed her, even though she was wrong. That's human nature. Okay. So how do you know if you're dealing with someone who's not very good at their job? You have to kind of understand their job and ask questions. And if you're asking me questions about credit, I'm locking eyes with you. I'm talking because I'm the boss of this. But then you change the subject to car repair, where I've never changed my own oil, and I've taken a tire off and I've never put one on. And it will become clear to you that I know absolutely zero about car repair, although I really don't want you to know that I'm not versed in the manly arts. So I'm going to do my best to make you think that I do know. So that's just human nature. This lady wasn't a bad person. It's just human nature. So that's probably the best story that I know to tell people, like, you have got to keep your head on a swivel. When we settle debt, we'll be on the phone with you, negotiating for you. And there are going to be plenty of people that'll tell you that you've reached the end of the line. You've gotten the bottom dollar until you get to a supervisor and then maybe another supervisor. So, it's just, we have to keep going until we feel like we've gotten to the end. There's generally a 15 to 20 to almost 30% difference between what the person on the phone says they can do until the last boss that we get a hold of. These are things that you need to know and will become accustomed to, but it takes time. People, if somebody hires me and they have like 8 collection accounts, by the time we've made our 3rd or 4th phone call, they could do it themselves. But they've never done that before. We speak in a manner that not only solves your problem, but teaches. And that is a skill that you will use the rest of your life. And knowing where to go, how to get the best loan, who the best lenders are, who has the better terms. These are things that we've had our ear to the ground for a very long time, and you've just started doing. So, and the internet is not going to help you much, because the people that really, really want to take advantage of you spend the most money on social media. People that have no authority can only say no.